Welcome everyone to CMM's Hard Floor Care webinar. And this the topic this time is around the clock floor care, maintaining hard floors in high traffic facilities. I am your moderator. My name is Kathleen Misovic, and I am the managing editor of CMM Magazine. I also have some assistants. Martha Schmidt is behind scenes, and she is the ISSA virtual events producer. And Elizabeth Christensen, who is a CMM editor, is also behind the scenes for now, but she'll be popping on later in the hour to manage the questions from the audience. And again, this webinar is brought to you by ISSA, changing the way the world views cleaning and facility solutions. If you are not already a member, please consider becoming a member of ISSA. Just pop on their website at issa.com for more information. And now we will have our first sponsor message from Americo.
Since 1969, Americo Manufacturing Company has been innovating high-quality, effective floor care products manufactured with pride in the USA. Headquartered in Ackworth, Georgia, we offer a full line of floor pads made from 100% recycled PET fiber and natural content. We combine American-made quality with tested sustainability technology, giving you the confidence that clean floors need not come at the cost of our environment. Visit our website to learn more about Americo's commitment to sustainability, green cleaning, and a cleaner way forward.
Please welcome today's panelists. We have Julio Delphine from CleanMark. He's a branch manager. We have Jessica Laws, New Hanover County Government. She's a custodial crew leader. And we have Omar Ramirez. He is with Diverse Facility Solutions, and he is a sales director, but is the former operations director. I'm going to let each panelist just take 1 minute and talk a little bit about their background. We can start with Julio.
Thank you, Kathleen, and hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode today. So as Kathleen said, my name is Julio Delphine. I am the branch manager with CleanMark, which is a commercial cleaning company based out of Madison, Wisconsin. I've been with this company, I've been for 15 years, but I've been in the cleaning industry for almost 17 years. I started, like many others, as a regular cleaning technician, and then over the years, I've been able to work my way up. And then recently, within the past couple of years, I was given the opportunity to lead the Madison branch, which is where I am now.
Thank you, Julio, and we'll go with Jessica next.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jessica Laws, and I'm with New Hanover County Government. We're located in beautiful Wilmington, North Carolina, down at the beach. I have 25 years of experience in the janitorial industry, 15 of which I spent managing a commercial cleaning company that my husband and I built from the ground up. After starting a family, my husband and I decided to dissolve the business, slow things down a little bit, focus on the family, and I had the opportunity to join New Hanover County. I have been in this role for 7 years now, and we have really been able to kind of rebrand our division and really build our custodial division to provide better service for our clients.
Thank you, Jessica. And Omar.
Hi, hello everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Omar Ramirez. I'm with Diverse Facility Solutions. Been with the company for a little bit over 10 years. Currently, I am the sales director, but I've been the senior director of operations for 10 years. Been in the industry for about 25 years plus, specializing in transportation hubs and terrazzo flooring.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone. As I said, mentioned, there is the Q&A function in the chat section. So if you have any specific questions you would like to learn from today's webinar, please feel free to put them in the chat area or the Q&A area, and your answers will help our panelists get information that you need. All right, we'll start out with, we'll have the panelists talk about the high traffic areas that they maintain, what kind of facilities they're in, and what are the specific challenges of keeping up with floors in these high traffic areas. So we'll start with Jessica.
So at the county, we have over 40 buildings that our custodial division maintains, and they all present their own set of challenges. Some of the ones that I'm directly responsible for maintaining are libraries, a historic garden, a senior resource center, and a cooperative extension with a garden. So at all of these facilities, the entry points for the public are, of course, one of the most impacted areas. This is due to dirt, grime, debris being tracked in by all of our visitors. Primarily in the gardens, it's a very sandy soil we have. Bathrooms and all of our facilities are also a high impact area. At the Senior Resource Center, we have a fully operational cafeteria and a multi-purpose room. Entry points in my buildings, they all have a form of hard surfaces, including laminate, LVP. Some of the challenges, again, is keeping the dirt out. I really feel like the floor mats are the unsung hero. In our restrooms, tile and grout are in most of our restrooms. Some of the other ones, we have a 2-part epoxy flooring and biofilm, regardless of the flooring type, is the big issue in the restrooms that we face. In the cafeteria, we have a combination of flooring, including LVP, and we also have the 2-part epoxy flooring in the kitchen area as well. Spills are one of the main issues that my team faces, especially during the lunch rush hour. We also have a dance studio with the hardwood dance floor. We have a series of classes that go on in here. This includes tap dancing and ballroom dancing. So wear and tear is a big issue on that floor. In our multi-purpose room, we also have VCT in there. Wear and tear from the usage. It maintains, anything from classes that they offer, exercise classes, catered luncheons are done in there. Formal dances are offered in there. And that was even a voting location site during the past election. So foot traffic is a big issue there for us.
All right, thank you, Jessica. Omar, if you want to talk about some of the specific challenges in the facilities that you manage.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathleen. Similar to Jessica, we service various locations, but one particular location that we service throughout the country is airport and airport environments. Some of the challenges that you have into high traffic scenarios have always been the ticket line areas, the TSA checkpoints, the post-TSA checkpoint exits throughout the food court scenarios. Those are some of the most challenging areas to keep up, and not only from a cleanliness standpoint, but also from a restoration standpoint, and have to be very well coordinated. So from our stand, in regards to maintaining floors, those have been some of the most challenging areas that our teams do a marvelous job in overcoming and maintaining throughout our facilities.
All right. Thank you, Omar. And then Julio.
Thank you, Kathleen. So in our case, one of the most challenging facilities that we have, it's a customer of ours that it's in the clothing manufacturing industry. It's they have a whole campus composed of several buildings, a total of 12 buildings, and they run 3 shifts. And so the most challenging areas are, of course, break rooms and the restroom and locker rooms. Just because right now, for example, during the summer months is their peak season. And typically they bring in additional temporary helpers that can range anywhere between 3,500 all the way to 6,000, additional temporary employees. And so these presents quite the challenge in terms of, cleaning those areas. Like I said, break rooms and then restrooms, let alone, vacuuming carpet areas in high traffic areas, in office areas. It's quite a challenge, and oftentimes we have to come up with sort of like new innovative ways to work our way around their schedule.
All right. Thank you, Julio. Next slide. So one of the ways where facility managers and custodians can deal with 24/7 traffic is through scheduling tactics. So this time I'll start with Omar, if you can kind of talk about some of the scheduling tricks you use for just regular maintenance of floor cleaning, and what are your processes for like emergencies like spills?
No worries. Yeah, definitely. So obviously, again, in an airport type environment, you have to be very uh, cautious and keep in mind the flow of the passengers that come through the airport themselves. So you, throughout the day, you have to maintain a regular routine scheduling, routine mopping, spot mopping, make sure the floor is free of debris, sweeping along with the mopping. So sorry, just to make sure I get that clarified, sweeping and mopping throughout the morning, first and second shift while all the passengers are there. But throughout the third shift, that's where the real detail cleaning of the floor comes in, and that is mainly coordinated with flight schedules, times that certain checkpoints may close, airline closures. So you got to make sure that you maintain a good and firm schedule so that way you can address the areas that close first, then come back to the areas that close secondly, and coordinate that throughout the entire night so that you're successful to have a turnover for the morning. When it comes to like emergencies, one of the big things that we always kind of try to implement, and we ask our team members, and we train a lot on this, is just making sure that safety, containment, and resolution are always at the forefront. So safety, if there is some type of emergency, spills or anything like that, you have to make sure you put the wet floor sign down for safety reasons. We don't want passengers slipping. We don't want airport employees slipping. We don't want our own employees slipping. Containment, make sure that you have an area that you surround whatever you're trying to clean up. So if it's a spill, we tend to put a cart on one side, the wet floor side on the other, contain it in the middle. So that way passenger traffic goes around the area. And the custodian is very successful in ensuring that they take care of the area and then open it back up for passenger traffic.
All right, thank you, Omar. I'll go with Julio next.
Yeah, thank you. So in our case, it's all about communication, uh, specifically during the summer months, like I said, just because it's peak season for this particular customer. And so even though we have checklists and our own schedule as to what time we perform certain duties, uh, it all comes down again to communication. We always want to make sure that we are on the same page with our customer. We show the schedule that we put together with our customer and each of the department managers to make sure that they are okay with again with the checklist and the times that we have put together to take care of their areas. And we work with them and modify cleaning times and our cleaning tasks based on their needs. And so that's one thing that I strongly recommend to people, to always stay in very close communication with your customer, because the more flexibility you show, the less the disruptive you're going to be to your customer and their visitors. And so that's something that we emphasize a lot, to always make sure that whatever schedule we put in place, that is approved by our contact before we move forward.
Great, and then Jessica.
Hey, yeah, I couldn't agree with Julio more. Having open and clear communication with your clients is key to creating an effective schedule. For us, for example, here at the county, the majority of our work here at the county is being completed during operating hours. So what I try to do is I stress to my team the importance of learning how the building flows. And kind of what I mean with that is watching how the visitors move through the building, how they interact with the various obstacles throughout the building, whether it's tables, chairs. That way you kind of learn your high traffic areas. Once you learn how your building flows, that's how you can kind of tweak your schedule to better maintain the facility. I always recommend to my team the most high traffic areas, let's focus on those areas prior to us opening. For example, most of our entry points are large foyers and vestibules. Daily routine, I mean, we sweep, mop them for general maintenance. We do regularly bring in a floor machine to scrub the floors as well, kind of depending on which floor it is, what type of floor, and the activities that have taken place. For example, I referenced at our Senior Resource Center, they have regularly scheduled activities. So we have to really be meticulous on when we can get in and provide the services we need to do. When emergencies arise, first of all, we go and assess the situation. We will block the area off for everyone's safety. If that particular situation requires a substantial amount of time to clean up, we try to redirect our visitors through a different way or a different area. Really what we try to do is we want to minimize the impact on county operations.
All right, thank you. Next slide. And here's a message from our next sponsor, Citywide.
If carpet cleaning is on your radar, chances are so are a dozen other maintenance needs. That's where Citywide comes in. We're more important than a carpet cleaning solution. We're your partner in managing janitorial and 20-plus facility services across your entire building. From floor care to window washing, landscaping to pest control, Citywide simplifies it all with one point of contact and zero hassle. Trusted by facility managers nationwide, we're proud to be the first choice in facility management. Visit GoCitywide.com or give us a call to learn how we can help streamline your building maintenance.
All right, our next topic is products. I know we've already had some people in the chat interested in products. If we can, the panelists can talk about the types of cleaning products that they rely on for quick yet effective results. And are there any innovations that are specifically useful for high traffic areas? This time I'll start with Julio.
Thank you. Yeah, so in our case, of course, depending on the surface, we have several hard surface floors, such as concrete floor. We also have tile floors with grout, and then also VCT floors. And so typically on VCTs, we try to stick with a neutral cleaner, just because it seems to work best by using an auto scrubber. Or if the area is small, we just use the regular mop bucket and disposable mop heads. In terms of the restrooms, this customer likes the floors, believe it or not, to be disinfected. And even though the floors get contaminated the moment somebody walks on it, they still want us to use a disinfectant in terms of cleaning the restroom floors. And then out in the plant area, we use a degreaser, and then we dilute that solution in an auto scrubber as well, just for efficiency. So those are the three main products that we utilize in terms of hard surface floors at this one site.
Thank you. We'll go with Jessica, and she can talk about her products preferences.
So in order to choose the most effective products, I feel like you really need to have some knowledge of the flooring types, again, your customers' preferences, and then you need to ask yourself, what outcome do you hope to gain? So some of the products we use regularly here for our day-to-day mopping is a neutral pH floor cleaner. We also have a tile and grout cleaner we do use. We have an all-purpose floor cleaner that we will run through our floor machines periodically. For hazardous spills, we do have a specific procedure we follow for that, which includes using an absorbent powder and a disinfectant.
All right. And Omar, talk about your product use.
What our product usage mirrors practically Jessica and Julio's approach as well, from a pH neutral cleaner to green cleaning products to what the vendor or your client preferred product is. So it just depends on your facility, the type of flooring, and your client preferences. So the other thing to mention is there's always a great variety of new products coming out. So maintaining that close relationship with your local representative to see what else is out there that could give you the same result at a more cost-efficient scenario, and be able to provide you and put you in good standings with the flooring, your facility, and your client. It's also the best method. So always contact your rep as well.
All right, good advice. Next slide. We talked about products, also equipment, from, old-fashioned, old school, mop and bucket to autonomous robots. I'll have the panelists talk about what works for them, and we'll start with Jessica.
So some of the equipment we use, we have obviously a combination of things. Like you said, we have the stick broom, we have dust mops, flat mops, string mops, microfiber mops. Some of the other things we use, backpack vacuum cleaners. For some of the larger areas, we do use a walk behind vacuum cleaner. Some of our floor machines are cylindrical and pad driven. Really how we determine what needs to be done is, specific to that facility. So that, size wise, what type of machine you want to bring in there. And again, talk with your local representatives as well for specifics.
Thank you. And I think Omar's next. So.
Thank you, Kathleen. Yeah, similar to Jessica's statement. It all depends on your facility, right? The facility could be a very large facility, but it can be very meticulously or has a lot of confined spaces. So if you do have a wide open area facility, obviously a bigger equipment to make sure you maximize your time and the efficiency portion of things is there. So you're able to cover more ground in less time and focus on other needs. But sometimes you have a big environment that has a lot of small spaces. So again, knowing your facility, knowing the layout, choosing the right piece of equipment, the size of equipment also is very important to be able to get into all those places. So talking with your team members, your local reps is the best route to see what is the best piece of equipment to do the job correctly and efficiently.
All right, and then we'll end with Julio on this topic.
Yes, of course, thank you. And so, referring back to this one customer that we have, just like Jessica and Omar, we have a variety of, equipment out there at this particular client location. There are areas, smaller areas, like I said, we vacuum the areas which is regular commercial grade, vacuums, whether it's an upright or a backpack. And in terms of hard floors, again, if the area is small, we just use the mop bucket and disposable, mop heads. If the area is a little bit larger, then we have, larger pieces of equipment such as walk behind floor scrubbers. We also have a ride-on floor scrubber, which is utilized out in the plant or warehouse area, just because the place is humongous. And then areas such as the restrooms, we do it both ways depending on the amount of time that we have to clean these restrooms. We either rely on a walk behind small floor scrubber, or we just do it the old-fashioned way with the regular mop bucket and mop head. So it all depends on the area that we're cleaning, and then how much time we have, in terms of customers wanting to use or employees wanting to use that area. So there are certain restrooms that we only have a window of about 30 minutes to clean a set of, let's say, 10 restrooms. And so it's all hands on, when that time comes, and the entire team runs over to those set of restrooms, and then folks already know that some of them are going to do, horizontal surfaces, others are going to do mirrors and toilets, urinals, partitions, refill dispensers, and then there is another crew that comes in and takes care of the floors. And so it all depends on the size of the space, and again, what type of equipment you have access to as well.
All right, thank you. Next topic. All right, we're going to have a little chat question. So for our participants, if you can let us know, if you haven't already, what type of flooring are you in charge of maintaining, and what is your biggest frustration about caring for this type of flooring? So we'll give you, you can type it in, and then we'll go on and to the next slide, which is another sponsor message. And this one is from SC Johnson. We will talk a little bit about the different kinds of flooring materials that you find in public buildings and that people work with. If each panelist can talk about the most common types of flooring they have and the pros and cons and what they think, would be best for high traffic facilities. We'll start with Omar.
So this one is definitely a bit of a tricky question, Kathleen, because obviously there's the pros and cons of different types of flooring depending on the facility and the traffic pattern wise. Can come down to installation cost, budgeting, and preference from client or the architectural point of view, but sometimes isn't the best for the facility passenger throughput. Some of the flooring again that we deal with a lot of terrazzo. Terrazzo is great. It looks beautiful when it's properly poured and cured and maintained, and not in very high traffic pattern areas. But that's where a lot of the resources with your vendors come in, finding the right product to make sure it's protected, the maintenance scheduling, the proper procedures, training with the team members. That's where all the positiveness comes in maintaining the floor. So terrazzo being one of them, VCT being the secondary. The third most common flooring that we deal with again is concrete as well, polished concrete and sealed concrete. Again, all great flooring, but it just depends on the traffic type that we encounter in the airports or other facilities that we service.
Right. We'll head out with Julio next.
Thank you. So in my case, VCT, is certainly number one type of flooring that we see the most at our facilities. And even though it's a great floor, a great surface, like Omar said, similar to terrazzo when properly maintained, once you put a coat of wax on VCT floor, it's all about maintaining it. You have to stay on top of it. If you don't have a proper floor care maintenance program on your VCT floors, very quickly, if it's a high traffic area, very quickly you're going to start seeing scratches, scuff marks, wear and tear. And so it's very important that with any surface, hard surface, or whether it's carpet or VCT or polished concrete, it's important to talk to your customer and make sure that you have a proper carpet care program or a hard floor care program, because that's going to dictate the longevity and the aesthetics of that particular surface. And so always talk to your customer and offer those options, to make sure that in this case VCT, it's strongly recommended to at least scrub it and recoat every 3 months, and then complete strip and recoat once a year. And so some customers are a little bit they hesitate to approve things like that, but when you show them pictures of the before and after, perhaps of other facilities that you're taking care of, pictures or images say a lot more than words. And so make sure that you always take pictures when you take care of your carpets or your floors, to use them later on to show potential customers or your other customers the type of work that you can do and how you can maintain those surfaces.
All right, thank you. And then we'll end with Jessica.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Julio and Omar both. Yeah, with floor care, the routine communication really is key across the board. Just as far as the flooring types, a lot of what we are going with in a lot of our new facilities is LVP. It is more modern looking and a little less institutional. We do have still several facilities that has VCT, and again, it has a very nice appearance when it's properly maintained. The 2-part epoxy flooring, we were starting to put that in a lot of our restrooms, and again, that's been a real game changer. Specifically dealing with the public. everybody knows we all get those situations that aren't so pleasant to deal with. And it is nice to be able to, just to go in there and really, really flood the floor out, wash the walls down, whatever the case may be, to bring that back to, a great appearance. So that, again, some of the cons we've dealt with, though, with that the two-part epoxy flooring is the biofilm that, with it being a texture type flooring, it is slip resistant, but again, it does kind of show the biofilm a little quicker. So it does have to be maintained more regularly with the floor machine. But again, with VCT, the wear and tear, the scuffs, the scratches, the drag marks, if it's not properly maintained, it can really diminish the appearance of the building. So scheduling's king, in my opinion.
All right, next slide. All right, now we're gonna talk a little bit about restoring. How do you decide when it's time to restore and replace floors? And how do you manage to restore a floor in a very busy facility? We'll start with Julio.
Thank you. So going back to VCT, which is where we tend to spend most of our time in terms of hard surfaces. So a very good key indicator is, like I said before, once the floor starts showing signs of wear and tear, or the sheen on the floor finish, it's no longer the way it was when it was done. Then that's when that's your sign to make sure that, hey, you know what, talk to your customer, make sure that if it's not time yet, according to a pre-schedule that was set between you and your customer, bring it up to their attention. Say, I know that perhaps we still have to wait another couple months for a scrub and wax, but I strongly suggest that we do it now and just assess the condition of the floor 2 months from now, when it's the actual scheduled time to take care of the floor. Just because the aesthetics, in any facility, the looks of the floors, the looks in a lobby when you enter a kitchen or a restroom is very, very important. There are facilities that are old or older, and they can be clean, but if they appear to be dirty, even though they are clean, that's just most people are just going to take it as, oh, this place is dirty, regardless of how many times you clean it throughout the day. And so it's always important to keep in mind aesthetics, right? To make sure that something is clean and that it looks clean, not just that it's clean. And so as soon as you see those signs of wear and tear on those floors, talk to your customer. And then in terms of how to minimize disruptions during, let's say a busy time, like it is right now at peak season with our customer, that's when, again, communication is key. You have to make sure that the customer schedule, when is best for you to do this, whether it is nighttime, like on third shift, or if it's a Saturday, or if it's a Sunday, or oftentimes we do some of the floor restoration work on holidays, just because it's when we know that nobody's going to be in the facility, and it's when we can truly take care of those floors without having to rush. And so rushing is never a good thing. Know when you can do this type of work, know how much time you have available, right, to minimize disruption, but also make sure that that you prepare, that you have a plan, whether it is just scrubbing and waxing, VCT floors. Make sure that you know exactly how much product you're going to need, that you have the number of people that you're going to need already lined up, that everybody's it's on the same page. Make sure that that you have all of your supplies and equipment, so that the moment you get there, it's rock and roll, right? And so that's the key. So that way you're not wasting time with, oh my goodness, I forgot this piece of equipment, or I forgot this particular supply, or I forgot to let my employees know that the start time or the meeting time was going to be on this other entrance instead of that other door. And so all of that, you have to take into account. And so plan ahead and make sure that you have everything ready before you even set foot on that working area.
Thank you. We'll go with Jessica next.
So restoration for us is really determined based on the needs of the facility. For example, in my role, if one of my facilities starts to show damage, like it needs to be professionally restored, I bring my supervisor in, we take a look at it, we talk about it, and then that gets moved up our chain of command. Because as county employees, we do have a budget that we have to adhere to. And really the replacement process for us follows the same process. It really is based on the needs and the budget. If we do schedule a restoration, normally that is scheduled outside of operating hours of the county, unless it's an emergency situation. Again, our main goal is just to minimize the impact of county operations.
All right, and Omar.
Thank you, Kathleen. I couldn't agree more with Jessica and Julio. Again, it's all about doing inspections, seeing when it's time to be able to determine when it needs to be restored. With airport environments being a lot more in the higher traffic pattern, it does take a lot of coordination. It does take a lot of inspections to be able to ensure that you're meeting the requirements. Additionally, from that, depending on the client airport environment, they can use what is called a glass meter reading. They'll look at DOI inspections, distinction of image inspections, or just look at the higher traffic pattern. So in our experience, those are mainly the three things that we utilize to determine when it's time to either do a light restoration or full restoration. And also the other thing that is very important to keep in mind is depending on what type of a coating protector that you're utilizing. Typical, the most traditional one is the wax, and you can tell wax from when it's scratched and or it's starting to yellow, it's starting to wear out, the wear and tear. But there's also other products out there that are stone floor protectors that are different from wax, but those were the ones that you start to look at either a glass meter reading or the distinction of image. If the floor looks dull, you can't see a reflection on the floor. That is a telltale to be able to start coordinating and projecting when to recoat the flooring terrazzos. The other question here, how do you minimize disruptions? In an airport environment, you have to be very cautious. You could have a very, very small window of opportunity to do these projects. So again, pre-planning, as Julio described, you have to pre-plan and make sure everything's ready to rock and roll. And once the facility closes down for that small window, the team has to be prepared to be able to execute. But what happens when you actually have an environment that still has passengers? The approach that we've taken has been to do it in sections. So if you have 600 square feet that you're working on that night, do half of it first, take care of that, then do the other half. So that way there is a passenger traffic walkway at all times. It might take a little bit more time, obviously, in coordination, but if you are scheduling that out properly, you will be successful for the night.
All right, great plan. Next slide. And our final sponsor message is from Square Scrub.
Whatever the floor, whatever the challenge, Square Scrub delivers results. Our Doodle Mop makes daily cleaning quicker and easier, as well as more sanitary by using disposable microfiber pads that eliminate the transfer of bacteria from room to room. The Doodle Scrub compact floor tool excels at cleaning biofilm and stubborn dirt from grout lines and textured floors, thanks to our exclusive 3D blue tile and grout pad. Have a larger area to clean? Look no further than the 20 or 28 inch pivot. These powerful units are easy to operate and excellent on all hard surface types. Not just cleaning, but dry prepping and chemical stripping as well. Contact Square Scrub by Mighty today, your go-to floor care experts.
All right, I think this is our final slide, and I'll have each panelist just give a minute because we want to get to the questions. We have a lot of questions, but basically I would just kind of talk about what is the most common floor care error you see, and what would you say for people to do instead? So we'll start with.
Thank you. Chemical misuse. That is one of the most common mistakes we see. What we've tried to do is redirect that with additional training, some of which we've actually used here through ISSA. Additionally, we've installed chemical dilution stations, which are mounted in all of our facilities, ensuring that the chemicals are dispensed properly. You don't always need more chemical just because the floor is more dirty.
All right, good point. We'll go with Omar next.
That is a great point, Jessica. And secondary to that is not following the proper standard operating procedures. We've encountered a lot of, in the past, a lot of team members that try to skip steps, try to think that jumping a step is going to make it quicker, easier. It is not the case. So you have to follow the standard operating procedures. And oftentimes we have to go back to that retraining session.
All right, and Julio, what do you see as the top mistake?
Very similar to what Jessica and Omar just described. With us is that employees oftentimes trying to cut corners in an effort to finish the job sooner or quicker. That always has serious consequences, and so that's one. And then the other one is the chemical dilution. Not reading or following the instructions on the label of that particular chemical that we are going to use. Many people believe that the more chemical you use, then the better the job is going to be, or the easier, right? The more effective the chemical is going to be, and that could not be further from the truth. And so training, it's always something that we emphasize here a lot, where we are constantly training and retraining our employees to make sure that those bad habits, don't come back to their mind. Because believe me, they some of them come up with some of the crazy ideas, and typically they're not, good ideas in terms of taking care of floors. There is no reason why folks need to rush. Of course, there are times in which we have a short, window in which we need to get something done, but cutting corners is never a good idea. And so training, and retraining is something that we do here a lot to avoid those things from recurring.
Thank you. All right, now we'll go to the Q&A portion. I'll have my colleague Elizabeth come on and kind of go through the questions.
Hi, welcome everybody. I'm Elizabeth. I can honestly say this is the most questions we've gotten beforehand and pretty close to the most we've ever gotten during. So I'll try to get through a lot of these. I'll start with this first one because it touches on several points we've kind of talked about before, and several people were kind of saying the same thing. But this one says we have 2 clients who are there when we clean. They do not cooperate with staying off the floor when mopped, and then complain about footprints. How do you handle that?
Hi, Elizabeth. I could jump in. Or Jessica, you want to jump in on this?
No, you're fine. Go right ahead.
Believe it or not, it is not a uncommon scenario that happens, where you have you're trying to do your due diligence, especially certain areas that are limited in response. So you have to first and foremost make sure that you communicate that to your management team members. If your management team members are able to help mitigate with their management team members, then we could try to find a common ground, right? Kind of elaborate in regards to, could you give us 5 minutes? We'll come in at 10:15, and by 10:20 we're out of there. Try to find that common ground. If it is a client, I believe Elizabeth, the question was a client, correct?
Yes.
Is trying to have that open conversation and just have it documented. I hate to use that phrase in regards to to the constant scenario. But if you can support and document that your team members are going in there, doing everything right, maintaining the place clean, but unfortunately, the team members that are in there are not cooperating, then documentation is going to be your best route in this case scenario.
Okay. And so these next two questions that I have are, it kind of touch off of this last one, but showing marks. They want the floors mopped. They're in there 24/7 days a week, but then they complain about show marks. Somebody in the chat also mentioned an air dryer. Is there any way to not have the floors look streaked? And I've got somebody saying they have this problem with marble and tile, another person with grout and ceramic. So any way to mitigate the streaky look of drying floors, I guess?
Well, I could definitely suggest a couple of approaches. One would be definitely having a fan blower. There's quite a bit of variety of fan blowers. Some of them even come in conjunction with wet floor signs. So talk to your local rep to see what is out there. The secondary is, again, sectioning off approach. You clean, use a mop and bucket approach, and then you follow up with a dry flat mop to dry the floors a lot quicker. So do a section, dry it, move on to the next section. That should minimize either streakage and or anybody else walking on top of it and then messing the floor up again.
Okay. Can anybody talk to how to deal with floor scratches?
So floor scratches, what we've done in the past, again, is regular maintenance. If it's VCT with wax, I would recommend regular buffing, just to kind of take those top layer surface marks out in between, your restoration coats.
Okay. And then Omar, I think I have a couple here for you about terrazzo flooring. The one is asking, can you please elaborate on stripping and waxing terrazzo? Is this the best method to maintain terrazzo in its look? And does terrazzo need floor finish or can it stay without?
All great questions. And definitely, I would, personal wise, preference wise, and what we've encountered and experienced is definitely not utilizing wax on terrazzo. There's multiple reasons, and I could throw out a couple that we've encountered. One, again, the terrazzo yellows after time. It is does get walked off. It is more difficult to remove and reapply, and obviously 4 coats of wax is the minimum that is required. But ultimately, there's other products out there that could be less coats of wax, equally resistant, last longer. And the most important thing that we've encountered as well is depending on the color of your terrazzo and the terrazzo mixture. So again, my approach would be, depending on your facility and terrazzo, find the alternative if you could avoid waxing. And I do know that there's certain clients out there that prefer and request wax on terrazzo, but if you're able to move away from waxing terrazzo, definitely do it. Contact your local rep and see what alternative options are available to you.
And then sort of a follow-up to that, what's the best spot removing process for diamond polished terrazzo?
Spot removing for diamond polished terrazzo. Well, again, it depends on what it is. Similar to a wax type scenario. So the coating on the terrazzo is a protective coating. It will walk off. Depending on what type of liquid is on it, it could stain it, which now requires a full on restoration in that section. It just really depends on what type of scenario. If it is a light spot, you could top scrub, burnish, recoat. If you're using something other than wax. If you're utilizing wax, then you have to go through the wax procedure to repair those areas.
Okay, so switching topics here, what kind of flooring types do you use degreasers on?
I think that was a specific question for Julio. So
Yeah, so in my case, we use it on mostly concrete floors, non-polished concrete floors, specifically in areas where, let's say, you have a shop area out in a plant where they have a lot of machinery and equipment that uses grease or oil. A degreaser is typically the best chemical to use to clean those surfaces. Or if you have, let's say, a customer site that has a full kitchen, where they have a chef and then they cook. So it's a degreaser as well you have to use, but it's a different type of degreaser. This other one would be specifically for for areas where food is processed. And so we used to have this car dealership where, again, out in the shop where they, do oil changes and they work on vehicles. The only thing that would work was a very strong degreaser. And so those would be, I guess, the only areas where you would need a degreaser. Otherwise, don't play with that, and then always make sure that the type of surface and then what that facility, what kind of work it's done in that facility, and then based on that, then like Omar said, always contact your local rep, and if you're not sure about what product to use, and then perhaps schedule a site walkthrough with your local rep, and then they'll be more than happy. There are many of them that will be more than happy to go there with you and see the site firsthand and in person, and make proper recommendations.
Okay, changing topics here. Do any of you use autonomous scrubbers in the daytime? And if so, how does the public react to these robots? Has it been positive or negative?
I'll
I
jump
do.
in first. Oh, go ahead, Julio.
Thank you. I do. We, it's robotics is a thing now, right, in the cleaning industry, and we recently started using robotics for vacuuming larger facilities. Specifically, they have their use. It's not like they're going to be useful to vacuum an entire building, but specifically on traffic lanes or large open areas where there is not a lot of obstacles. Those tend to work out well. Same with the auto scrubbers that have that technology. We have a small airport here near Madison that we clean. And then at least at the airport, we get mixed people with mixed feelings. Some of them are very impressed by it, and they like to stop and look at it and be like, oh wow, yeah, it's a robot. And then there are other people that get kind of annoyed. But in terms of the customer feedback, the positive feedback that we get is a lot higher than the negative. There are still some times where certain employees are like, well, what is that thing doing? Or it's making noise, or can you put a flag on it so that we can at least see if we're coming around the corner and know that this thing is working its way around. But robotics is definitely something that is not going to go away. And so if folks have a chance to look into that, I strongly suggest that you start getting your hands on this type of information and technology, because it's going to become more and more popular as we move forward.
I think that one was good. I'll try to get two more questions in here quickly. What should we know about steam cleaning tile floors? Is there any specific equipment, pressure, temperatures, chemicals to use steam? Are any of you dealing with steam cleaning? No? No, okay. Okay, how about what's the difference between waterproof versus water resistant flooring? Anybody want to speak to that? Again, I think it would be talking to the floorings manufacturer, maybe. Okay. So I'm going to try to touch on one of these with wax then. Our problem is humidity when waxing, knowing how long to wax between wax coats, and we're in the area with lots of humidity. Would any of you have any recommendations for this person? Any of you people dealing with humidity?
When it comes to waxing and humidity, obviously the biggest challenge is not having a controlled climate. Best thing would be to increase the airflow with your fans, trying to see if you could create a more stable environment. If that does not work, then again, best recommendation is to talk to your local rep to see what alternative options and solutions or pieces of equipment they could provide to you.
The only thing I would maybe add to that is even if you have a dehumidifier that you can bring in to kind of dehumidify the building before you get started, may be of help to you.
Okay, and my last question here, because I have a lot on concrete flooring too. How do you maintain naturally polished concrete flooring?
In my case, we, like I said, we use a neutral pH cleaner. And then if for some reason you encounter, let's say one of your employees was dragging a trash bag across this polished concrete and not knowing that the bag was leaking, if you don't clean that right away, it's going to stain the floor. And so normally, you know, in this case, without going into any specific name on the chemical, contact your local rep and then have them take a look at the particular stain, because you know, it could be that it was soda or wine or some type of grease from some sort of food that was, you know, eaten in the break room earlier in the day. And so it's always best to have someone that has more experience in terms of chemicals, instead of just playing around with different chemicals, you know, trying to guess which one is going to help you remove that. But the best thing to do for daily maintaining is just to dust mop it and then clean it with the neutral cleaner. Every now and then it might not be a bad idea to use a white pad and then a floor machine, just so that you can sort of like lightly polish the floor. But in most cases, it's not needed, depending on the amount of traffic that goes through that particular surface.
Well, thank you. I wanted to thank all of our participants here for all these great questions today, and I'm going to turn it back over to Kathleen here.
All right, and thank you to both our panelists, all of our panelists, and also to our attendees. We will be emailing you a copy of the webinar, and be sure to go on our website, cmmonline.com, to watch it again in person. And if you have more specific questions regarding floor care, interested in training, check out some of our educational offerings on issa.com to sign up for a class. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good rest of the afternoon.
Thank you. Likewise. See you guys.
Thank you. Take care.